Good evening, I'm Keisha Butts with the CTV News Update. U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen took to the floor of the Capitol today to push for passage of the proposed budget resolution that would clear the way for immediate COVID-19 relief. Van Hollen spoke about parts of the plan that would directly help Maryland, including $20 billion to increase access to vaccinations, $130 billion for schools, and direct payments to Americans. Van Hollen urged lawmakers to act big because millions of Americans face dire economic situations.
The American public recognizes that we have to act big and we need to act now to make sure that we beat this pandemic and that we get our economy back on track just as soon as possible. So, Mr. President, we all would like to have our Republican colleagues as partners in this effort. President Biden has made that very clear. But the overriding priority must be to meet the moment and take care of the needs of the American people. That's what the American people are telling us. I hope all of us will listen.
President Biden has been encouraging lawmakers to move quickly on his $1.9 trillion COVID plan. He signaled that he's open to changes in hopes of garnering bipartisan support. Maryland's COVID death count now stands at 7,074. The health department reports 31 fatalities in the last 24 hours, along with 1,500 new infections. More than a third of the deaths have occurred in Prince George's and Montgomery counties. In other news, Laurel police are responding to a burglary report encounter and homicide scene. Officers were called to the 500 block of Main Street early yesterday afternoon for a possible burglary. When they arrived, they found the victim, 43-year-old Brian Bergman, dead inside his home.
Mr. Bregman, who is well known in a number of circles in our communities throughout the region, including here in Laurel and Prince George's County and Washington, D.C., was found inside the residential part of the location. It's two separate addresses, although under one roof. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the victim of a homicide, and I really not prepared at this time to go into much more facts regarding that. As I mentioned, it's still very early in the investigation.
Anyone with information on this incident is asked to contact Laurel Police at 301-498-0092. Governor Larry Hogan responds to criticism of vaccination distribution in his State of the State speech last night. Hogan conceded that getting vaccines to everyone who wants a shot has proven to be more difficult and time-consuming than he'd like. The unusual speech was made virtually in the evening hours instead of before a crowded joint session in the House chamber during the day. The address was meant to comfort Marylanders as the pandemic continues to create hardships for families and the economy.
And we are rapidly building a statewide distribution infrastructure as we anxiously await the additional supply that is so desperately needed. We are prepared to deploy whatever supply the federal government is able to produce. Unfortunately, right now, the amount of vaccines being allocated by the federal government is just a tiny fraction of what we need. That is the hard truth, not just for us in Maryland, but for every state in America.
This is Hogan's second to last State of the State address. He cannot run again in next year's gubernatorial election because of term limits. When the General Assembly debates bills related to policing and criminal justice, they will have to consider racial equity. The Maryland General Assembly has started a pilot program that will give lawmakers expert analysis on whether legislation would result in disparate harm or help different segments of the population. The state's Department of Legislative Services would provide a racial impact statement on bills. Delegate Jazz Lewis has pushed for racial equity analysis in legislation. As an example, he points to the tougher sentences for crack versus cocaine, which puts blacks behind bars for longer periods than whites.
It is my hope that once this current pilot is successful, it can first be permanent for these issues, and then long term, it's then into other areas like healthcare, which I think is critically huge for the year we've just had and what we're still experiencing in the pandemic, and education, and so many more things.
Lewis hopes to make the pilot program permanent in Maryland. You're watching CTV News. I'm Keisha Butts. We'll be back in one moment.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
It's so sad. It's good. It's not. Here, put that on. Put that on.
Welcome back. CVS Health will begin administering the COVID-19 vaccine at several pharmacies across Maryland next week. Beginning next Thursday, February 11th, 18 CVS locations in the state will offer vaccinations. They include pharmacies in Bowie, Baltimore, Chester, Frederick, Fulton, Hagerstown, Ocean City, and Rockville. The vaccine will be offered to residents that qualify under the state's COVID-19 distribution plan. Residents can begin making an appointment with CVS online as early as February 9th. A county task force is suggesting a series of recommendations to help residents recover from the current pandemic. The task force is called Prince George's Forward. It provided an update during a virtual meeting yesterday on its Visions for Tomorrow report. Some of the short-term goals include enhancing remote work policies, expanding parent support for students, and educating everyone about the COVID-19 vaccine. Subcommittee Chair Rosie Allen Herring also says it's important to provide services for survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking.
The work will continue to focus on helping survivors develop soft skills like financial literacy, workforce development, parenting skills, and related. The Prince George's Forward Task Force will also identify additional funding sources for Survivor Resiliency Fund.
A Maryland lawmaker wants to reimagine school safety by replacing school resource officers with counselors. Delegate Janelle Wilkins from Montgomery County is sponsoring a bill called Counselors Not Cops. The legislation would reallocate $10 million in school security funding to mental health services. Delegate Wilkins says the current program criminalizes students.
When we look at Black students in particular, they are 56% of the arrests that take place, even though Black students are a third of the population in the state of Maryland. And we see a similar trend for Latino students and students with disabilities when it comes to arrests. So this program is something that's actually not serving our students, it's harming them.
The bill is now under consideration in the House Ways and Means Committee. A Landover business owner has been arrested for allegedly threatening his employees with a rifle. The suspect has been identified as 60-year-old Mickey Odit of Bowie. Police say yesterday he threatened his employees at Cosmos Air Purification Environmental Systems located at the 3600 block of Pensy Drive. Police say part of the incident was captured on cell phone video. Odit has been charged with 1 count of first-degree assault, 1 count of threats of mass violence. General Assembly leaders proposed a package of emergency bills to deal with problems in Maryland's unemployment compensation system. The federal government has a target of 3 weeks to adjudicate claims, but Maryland has been dead last in resolving issues with only 37% of claims mitigated. The legislation calls for an overhaul of the compensation system. The measures would allow people to track claims with a timeline for resolution, simplify requests for paper checks or direct deposit, and require caller IDs be used for the Division of Unemployment Insurance so that claimants know the call is not spam. Other bills would revamp the call center to ensure it's adequately staffed with language access, that vacancies are filled during a crisis, and that claimants are provided a callback number. There are currently 4,000 active cases being mitigated. An amendment was added that would offer $1,000 for those who are stuck in adjudication. The local planning board slams Governor Hogan's plan for widening the Capitol Beltway and I-270. Park and Planning Commission leaders say the proposal fails to divert enough cars off the road through increased transit, and that it would harm waterways and parkland in the path of two roadways. The sharply worded statement released Wednesday could signify possible future litigation, according to WTOP. Chair Elizabeth Hewlett says the state's proposal ignores recommendations to use part of the toll revenue to fund public transit expansion. Celebrate Black History Month with Prince George's County Library System. From discussions on racism to virtual readings, the system is hosting a series of online events for everyone to enjoy this month. It's also hosting an event tomorrow called Harriet Tubman in Her Own Words. Storyteller Janice Curtis Green will highlight Tubman's journey to freedom.
We are the cornerstone and the foundation of public resource. We are the community's library. So we are here to champion free resources for people, especially in these times, and just to be that platform where the community can connect to programming and educational needs. So we love to spread the word and spread it for free.
There's also a series of videos on the library's website for Black History Month. For more details, visit pgcmls.info. Let's get a quick check on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, rainy with snow showers and a low around 35. Friday, cloudy with the sun returning in the afternoon. Daytime temps reach a high near 50 and a low around 31. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 48 and a low around 32. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 47 and a low around 24 degrees. And now for the community calendar. Get ready to step to the beat. Grab your dance partner to participate in a series of master classes with the renowned Step Africa. Learn about the traditional art of stepping, whether you're advanced or just a beginner. All levels are welcome. The virtual classes start Saturday, February 6th from 1 to 2 p.m. Register today through Parks Direct using the keyword Step Africa. For more information, call 301-699-2255. And that's your CTV News Update. I'm Keisha Butts. Have a good night.
I moved to Florida with literally pennies in my pocket and a prayer. I needed a new start. Dacian looks like a very typical 3-year-old until you ask him, "What's your name? How old are you?" My son has a lot of behaviors that would show as being autistic. Most kids can tolerate a variety of foods, but unfortunately for Dacian, everything has to be organic and raw. I wasn't ashamed to go to the food pantries. It's expensive to eat healthy, and nutrition is very important to Dacian's health. The healthy organic food that we receive dramatically helped his social skills. Most people would say, she really doesn't have much of a life. But to me, I have everything right there next to me in my son.
There was a time in my life where I was extremely homesick. I decided that I needed a pet. When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. He jumped up and kissed me and jumped right into my arms. I immediately went up to the volunteers at the shelter and said, I want him, he's gotta come home with me. Now I'm anything but lonely. Every day with Turtle is a perfect day and keeps me company when I'm doing schoolwork. I like it when he jumps up on the table too. He is a veggie thief. He's an incredible companion and my best friend. Can't say that I've met anybody that doesn't love him too. When I adopted Turtle, I discovered all the things that make him unique. He's a little bit of a lot of things, but mostly he's all pure love.
I am what child hunger looks like in America. I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to a sleepover so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks during lunch so my friends won't know I don't have anything to eat. I am a 13-year-old boy who gets into fights at school just because I'm hungry. I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger. Kids you pass by every day, but never knew they were hungry.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.